Yay! There we are.
Let's
Okay.
go. Let's
So
go.
we officially switched roles today. I'm Coach D, and Coach D is Coach Schuman. So, so it's good. He's in charge, and I got to follow his lead there. We finally got it all worked out today.
God help the world. Listen, we make it work no matter what, buddy. It is what it is, right? Like, it's all good. Here we go. We're ready to go. We got a great guest on today. Excited to have Coach. I'm excited. I'm switching roles. You're giving me we got a little bit of something different going on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Coach has obviously been an Iona Prep for a little while now. Built it from a school that was a good New York football program to where they're playing national powers.
Amazing.
And they're winning a lot of those games, and they're competing at a really, really high level. He's
got
he's
some big
one
name
of
prospects on the roster, right?
bunch of big name prospects on the roster that they've had, and we'll talk about that. I mean, he's done such a good job. I think he lost one of them at one point to IMG or something. So that's how you know you're doing a good job when you
Absolutely. If they're coming to take your kids, like, that's what's working. So, all
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Without further ado, Coach Spagnolo.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Coach, appreciate you taking the time, buddy.
Am I right about that? You're getting so good that the guys are coming and trying to get your guys. You know what I mean?
That's a sore topic.
I'm sure it is a very.
Coach, we figured we'd throw salt on it right away to get you really fired up to go.
I didn't mean to throw salt on it. I didn't mean to throw. I meant it as a compliment to what you're doing but yes, I would be salty too. Believe me.
Hey, listen, we dealt with it, right? We did it. We had it. Yeah. We had it happen to us in August of one season. And it's like, hey, kind of part of it. But listen, Coach, again, we did a little intro for you or whatever, but just, kind of give us your background a little bit as to, growing up, playing career, coaching career, kind of where you got to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually an Iona Prep alum. I graduated from school back in '98. I was a multi-sport athlete there. Iona really was a big foundation, big part of my life growing up. Went on and played college football at Siena College and then at Bryant University. It's actually the first quarterback to graduate from Bryant University in 2002, actually 2002.
Yeah, and I bet you can't look at campus now and it's like, wow.
It's a different place. It's actually called University College back then.
Yes, sir.
I went out of school. I wanted to be a college coach. Unfortunately, my parents got sick when I was in high school / transition into college. Came home, kind of took care of them. Was dying to get back into football. Was able to do it at the high school level. Coach O'Donnell at Stepinac gave me my first opportunity as the offense coordinator there as a 24-year-old. I was definitely in deep waters and trying to learn how to coach and just learn how to call an offense and do all the things. And then obviously when my alma mater came calling back in 2016, it was a no-brainer to go home and get the opportunity to coach at a school that I grew up in.
It's amazing what you've done. I think 7-8 years you've been there now as the head coach.
Since 16. So yep.
Oh, 16. Okay, so it's
8 years.
It's amazing how it's risen up to become like looked at as a national power. What was that process like? I mean, I remember when you beat, I think it was Don Bosco a couple of years ago, and it's gone from a place that was always very good, obviously in New York. Like it was a place that always had a lot of really good players. Kids wanted to play there, but where now, like you guys are playing some high level competition. You're seeking it out. What was that process like developing that? Because that had to be, you played there. That had to be a process of like step by step, especially in New York where, basketball was always king, right? Really developing that process.
Yeah, I mean, my first year at Iona, we weren't even in the AAA. We were in the AA division, so we weren't even in the top division in our league. That's kind of where we started from. So we started, from a lower spot. But Iona is a great place. I mean, academically speaking, it's one of the top schools in New York. Diversity wise, you get a little bit of everything from, the country club rich kid to the inner city kid to everything. So, I mean, it's got a home for everybody. Our facilities are top notch. Our administration supports athletics. It checks a lot of boxes for a lot of kids. It was just a matter of kind of really organizing the thing, making it look like a college level program, and then just getting it out there and getting as many kids on campus as possible to see all the great things we have going on here.
Now, having been up in that area, is Iona Prep right near where Iona is? Is that where is it?
It's about 3 to 5. It's about 5 miles away.
Got it.
It's in the same city. They're both in New Rochelle, but the campuses are about probably a 10-minute drive from each other. They're not on top of each other, but they are. We are associated with the university and everything as far as that goes.
It's a really, really. We were up there in that area. What were we up there for, Derek? For 7-on-7?
Yeah, we had a tournament. We played at New Rochelle High School.
Yeah, that's a great area up there. What a great area. We drove around Iona, obviously, and then I now that I'm thinking about it, I know exactly where Iona Prep was. They drove around after like New Rochelle. I hadn't been there in a long time, and it's amazing what that area is, and how it's grown. I hadn't been there in like maybe 20 years, so it's amazing how that area has grown tremendously. And it is a mix. I think which really allows you to have great diversity on your football team, meaning like you have rich kids, poor kids, kids of multiple ethnicities. What I think of as football being, you know what I mean? And
you're literally a melting pot of everything under the sun.
Geographically too, we're 20 minutes from New York City.
Absolutely. You got the city right there. You got Connecticut's right there.
Right there. You're right near Connecticut. So you got a lot of different pots to pick from, and it helps us with recruiting, college recruiting too, because
100%
can hit us and then go over the GW, or they can hit New York City, or they can hit the New England preps and then come down. We get a lot of exposure because of our central location, so that helps. I really think that makes life a little easier for us.
Right. And also, and you think about it too, like as a national scheduled team now, that draw, who wouldn't want to come play you, right? Compete at a high level. And then look, hey guys, New York City's right here. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like you have that kind of draw. Because look, when you're a national, like to get a West Coast team or a Florida team, like those guys, like when they travel, they want to add to that process, right? So, hey man, you come play us. Like, look, dude, Statue of Liberty, like, New York City, like all kind of in that same thing. I knew like when I was at Bosco, that was always kind of one of those things like that. Hey, Mission Viejo's coming in, but we set up a trip for them to go and see this or whatever. So I think that also adds to your, the whole appeal of the program itself.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, high school football world's gotten smaller. And there's not a ton of teams to play when you get to a certain level. So the appeal is nice. having opportunities to go do team building things are great. But what usually ends up happening, it's like, I can't fill a game this week. You can't fill a game this week. Let's do a home and home, or let's try to figure it out, or and that's what usually ends up happening with our non-league games. It's gotten difficult to fill them.
Absolutely. It's like a great problem to have, right? Like I'm not playing those guys.
What was that like? What is it like in New York? Give us a landscape, because people don't really understand New York football, right? And obviously you're pulling from different areas. So you're pulling from Connecticut. You might even be pulling kids from Long Island, New Jersey, New York City. But what is the New York football landscape like? So people understand a lot of times what New Jersey football is like, because you have a lot of the big schools that you guys do play, right? Right in one area. But explain what it's like the road to really building a powerhouse program in New York, and like some of the kind of trials and tribulations you had to go through, because it's not like, it's not exactly the same, even though Iona Prep's a fantastic school. You're 100% right academically. So that appeal is tremendous, but it's very much easier in New Jersey, where you have a very large population that all plays football, right? And in that Bergen County, Passaic County, Essex County area. So to draw players there is easier, right? It's a little easier. Yeah, you're competing with a lot of schools, but you also have a lot of players. Give people understanding of like where some of your players have to come from, like how you had to draw different players to where you are.
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
Sorry,
no, it's a good question. As far as the New York landscape goes, it's difficult for us because we play in the AAA division of the Catholic League, which is the equivalency of the Big North in Jersey,
yep.
where you're already playing the top teams on your regular season schedule. So there's really no one within your league to schedule. And then looking outside your league, you're really limited on teams that want to play at the level that we're playing or play a game of like that voluntarily. So
right.
In New York, it's almost impossible. We don't find New York non-league games anymore. I don't even try anymore.
It's not even worth the time.
It's not. And there are a couple teams worth playing. It just never ends up happening. So I
honestly line up. Yeah, like a St. Anthony's, right, or something like that.
We play them. They're in our league. So like the top teams in New York, you're already playing anyway. So
right. It's like Bergen plays Bosco, Bergen plays St. Joe's, right? Like I always compare it to the SEC because every week you're just getting smashed.
That's why they go out of state, right? Because there's really no one else in state for them to play, and we're kind of in the same world from that standpoint. But Dave, you hit it on the nose. I think New York is a bigger lacrosse and baseball state. It's not football first, where in Jersey it's definitely football first. So for us, we have to work harder to find those football first. I want to be a college football player type of kid on our roster. Sometimes it happens just by organically. You'll have a kid that comes in for other sports and then up realizing that football is their ticket. But most of the time, you're trying to find those kids that want to commit to a program that's football first, like we are.
Yeah, and it's people around the country don't always understand that New York City is so big and overpowering, and there's not as many fields there for kids to develop. There are areas where there are pockets, but so people just always think to themselves, well, you have New York City, 10 million people, it should be, but they don't realize that those kids are in other sports, and for kids to get places is more difficult. Now, when you go out to suburban areas like New Rochelle, that's different. Obviously, that's more like New Jersey. Obviously, Connecticut areas. As you start moving out to the boroughs, there's a little more. But people don't understand that there really just is not as many fields, right, in the city for people to play on. And when people are like, well, why has basketball always been so big? Well, there's a basketball court on every corner, right? So it's really a tribute. Like I think it's amazing what you've done with New York football, because I remember growing up, like places like Iona Prep or Poly Prep when they were really good in the old days. Like those schools would go undefeated and come play. If they went and played a New Jersey school, they would get trounced 45-0. Same thing with the old St. Anthony's out on Long Island. But you guys have really improved the program and found the players and built it up where you're competing and winning those games. You're playing national powers, and awesome. I think it's a tribute because there's an education process in New York with football, right? There's an education process of you can be an elite football player in New York. You can be a Division I football player, and the steps you have to take is no different than the steps of kids in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, but you could do it here, and I think that's what you've. I mean, it's incredible. Every time I keep seeing Iona Prep over and over again, and you got to wait, Derek. Am I right? Is Iona Prep is where he's got the celebrity quarterback too?
He's dealing with a national. He's dealing with national recruiting. I don't know what to call him. I don't know, Coach. As long as he can throw the ball, he listens to what you say. Like. You know what I mean?
I've known him since he was a young kid. He's a very nice kid, but it's amazing.
Interesting cat, Coach.
I known him since he was like in 5th grade and 6th grade when he used to come as a little young guy, tiny guy. coming around the camps and stuff. But I'll tell you this, like, you are managing an amazing amount of things and do such an amazing job with it. I tell you, I always tell Derek, like, this is a great get on the show because what he's done with Iona Prep and building it up, and like, and you've had to deal with a lot of different things and continue to just move forward as a power, to me is awesome. Is there a magic thing that you do every day that it enables you to do that, or is like what's your typical day like with your team getting them ready every week?
Yeah, I mean, going back to your question about playing these national games, that started because our kids weren't getting recruited high enough. We were seeing our kids not getting opportunities on recruiting boards, not getting the benefit of the doubt. And if you go and look at where our alum are right now, I'll send you guys our recruiting platform. But I mean, we have kids in the SEC, we have kids in the Big Ten. You
have guys everywhere.
We have 30 kids playing Division I football right now. We have over 60 kids playing college football right now, and that goes from IVs all the way to the SEC. So once they started getting the opportunities, I think we started building cred in the college community, and they have games that they can go and look at us versus other national level teams that they're familiar with to see that, all right, it is an apples to apples comparison. You can look at it on the same level you're looking at a kid from Ohio or a kid from Jersey or PA or whatnot. So that was the real reason we started doing that. What's happened with that, though, now it's kind of been a cause and effect thing. What's happened is it's broadened our scope, and kids are coming in from further and further away now because of the opportunities to play at that level and play the type of money games we play and get the type of exposure that our kids get.
Absolutely. There's so much more to this now than just the X's and the O's and all that other kind of stuff. Like, and every mom and dad, that's all that's what they're concerned about, right? Like, what are you going to do for my kid? How are you going to put him in the right position to get to that next level? And look, you made the slow transition. Like you said, you weren't even in the top level of your own division when you started. So slowly, little by little, right, you build it. It's a process. You have to trust it. But it also has to be all in alignment, from the principal to the higher ups, the admin. They all have to buy into what you're working with. And on top of it, now you have to adapt to this new world that we're living in with NIL and the transfer portal stuff and all of this other kind of stuff that, you have to so heavily recruit your own roster. Maybe not so much in your area because there's not as many, right? Like when I think of the Big North, you think of like those schools are on top of each other, right? Like within, 45 miles, draw a circle, you have every Big North power that are just kind of buying for the same kids. Might be a benefit to you now that you're pulling from, different areas, but how do you kind of go about that, managing your own roster now, Coach, in this new world of what we're living in?
Yeah, Derek, great timing on this question because this is the time of year where kids jump. So this is where retention is the most important right now. Yep. From our standpoint, we kind of laugh at the college guys because it's like, welcome to our world. We've been dealing with this for 100 years. In our world, we have the local public school kid that can go back and be a 3-sports star and play both ways and drive the team bus and do everything. You have the kid that doesn't get offers early enough that wants to reclass. You get the kid that doesn't think he's getting utilized the right way, or he's the odd man out, or he's a step from the field or whatever. So you're dealing with all that every single year at a school like Iona. We're big on the retention deal. We try to make sure every guy on our roster that has a realistic chance of playing knows their role, knows the opportunities they're going to get. And knows that we're going to help get them recruited at the level they belong at as well. So, it's a constant communication deal. It's talking to parents. You always start with the player, right? You start with student athlete. You make sure they're okay. If they're okay with things, then you kind of stops there. But if you feel any hesitation, then you got to get mom and dad on the phone and really start, looking into this and see where the problem lies, and then see if there's, reasonable solutions. See if there's ways to help a kid make this work more for him. And you got to be flexible nowadays, and you got to be a player's coach, and you got to be there for your kids. They got to have your cell phone. They got to have you on speed dial. It's an everyday job. There's not a day that goes by that I don't talk to multiple kids on my team. Not a single day, like literally not a single day.
And you're starting to see that, right? Like, and Dave and I have seen it, right? This high school football coaching is now a 365-day, 24 hours a day job, right? And look, we all know this. Like, you don't get into coaching in high school for the money, brother. Like, we ain't doing this for that. That's for damn sure. For the most times, we're making personal sacrifices, right? Putting some of these kids before our own families. And, because that's just, that's what we do. It's what we've signed up for. But it's also about, like you said, the adapting to this modern era that we're dealing with. You have to worry about that sophomore that's going to be your starter in 2 years. But because he's not playing right now, like maybe he goes and jumps. So, hey, how do I get him on the field some way, shape, or form? Can I get him a package? Can I put him on special teams? And then, why am I playing special teams? Well, buddy, listen, when you get to college, this can help you do this, right? Like all of that stuff. And I really feel like this, and this is a big point too, that I always tell Dave too, like your assistants now are such a big piece to the puzzle. Right? You need to hire assistants that can handle things more than just go coach individual for 15 minutes. Absolutely not. Like they need to know their players inside and out, coach. Talk about that because that's something that we've seen, right, Dave? Like we've seen now, like some head coaches in Jersey. I mean, you're talking like Middletown South, like Antonucci, this like staple in this program, right? Like guys that have been coaching for like 30 years that are now stepping away, right? So just talk about that a little bit, coach, with the time stuff that goes along with being a head coach. And then obviously like your assistants, how do you handle that?
Yeah. So we've been lucky enough to build serious infrastructure at Iona. We have a full-time strength and conditioning coach that's there from 8 to 8. So like, if you're playing other sports, we have a state-of-the-art weight room that we pumped $500,000 into the last 5 years. We have a speed coach that's second to none. He trains, he doubles as one of our track coaches. He only deals with the sprinters and the jumpers, which is primarily my skill guys.
There you go, Dave. Track guys, Dave.
Our orthopedic company provides us with nutrition presentations and talks to our kids about calorie counting. And, we have a sponsorship with Gatorade where we get the boys protein bars and supplements during season to make sure we're not losing weight. I have 12-man varsity staff. We kind of merged with the New Rochelle coaching staff. We have the legendary Lou DiRienzo as our defensive coordinator, Coach Ray Rice, Coach Courtney Green, one of the winningest coaches in Section 1. He brought his top 2 assistants with him. I brought, my core guys on offense with me. So we're a 2-platoon coaching staff with virtual head coaches at every position. I joke now. I don't coach as much anymore. I'm still calling.
Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no, coach. You hold all the keys, man. They're doing the X's and game planning, and you're just worried about, like, all right, well, like, what's going on over here? You're dealing with administration. You're dealing with this. Like, I tell that all the time. Head coaches, they don't coach. They really don't coach anymore, man. Like, they don't have the time.
Well, a bigger program, like what you've developed, you obviously – you're overseeing the whole thing, and that's you got to make sure everybody's doing what they're doing. I mean, it's smaller programs, it's different, but at Iona Prep, you have the courtzy, like you have the ability. It's great to have a 12-man coaching staff. I'm curious, is it harder to retain assistant coaches than it's been in the past, or has that been pretty stable for you?
No, coaching at Iona is like football heaven. I mean, we have football ops. We have an equipment manager. I mean, no one's giving out shoulder pads. We have a guy that Mike DeSeno, who's my right-hand man. He was a youth. He ran a youth organization for 30 years. He's going to be a retired fireman, and we're hopefully going to get him in the school full time. But he runs all my football operations. I think what happens is you get a lot of good coaches that are just sick of dealing with a lot of the nuance, a lot of the tougher things about being a high school coach, and they can come here and just coach great kids, go home and be with their families. I put the fires out. I kind of deal with a lot of the day-to-day issues, and they can really focus on coaching. I make it a joke. It's like, I don't get involved in specials. I don't get involved in defense. I try to score 40 every game. I try not to turn the ball over, and then I manage our program. And, that's what, that's in order what I do in season, and That's it. Yeah.
That's it. Score 40 every game. You're in good shape.
Score 40 and we're good, bro.
That's it. That's right.
Some years it's like that, but we're very lucky what we have on the defense side of the ball. Hopefully, it's just don't turn the ball over.
Absolutely. What has it? I don't know the answer to this. So I know New Jersey has you could do NIL, I guess in high school, right? Does New York have that too? Is that
they have it as well?
So
yep.
Does that? I mean, I guess maybe only your top tier players. Maybe that could be an issue. Is that something that's creeped in at all? And some of the stuff you're doing, I don't know. That's why I'm asking the question. I'm curious.
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, we last week we had an agency at our practice talking to the kids about NIL. One of my best friends is an NIL specialist, Doug Phillips. Look him up. He works with Penn State, BC. NC State, a lot of the major Division I schools. He's come and given lectures on NIL to our student athletes. We probably have had 3 or 4 kids that have had some level of NIL deals coming out of high school. It hasn't hit huge. I mean, obviously, when we had Ellis Robinson, the number 1 player in the country, he was getting approached with it. We've had a couple other guys that have gotten some small things. But just the knowledge of it and just understanding it, to me, at the end of the day, it's just an extension on what you teach kids, your brand, what their social media account should look like, what they should look like, how they should present themselves to colleges. A lot of that stuff goes hand in hand already. It's really just the marketing side of it that's been the added feature with the NIL stuff.
What are the college coaches saying when they come and look at it? Because you had so many big time prospects. What kind of kid are they looking for from you guys? Do they care about the NIL stuff? Is that something that's a concern with your top guys? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm seeing in the college landscape, they're getting away from NIL-ing kids out of high school because the window and everything's expedited so quickly. The top kids, yes, but I think the funds are going more towards the retention side on the college level now. And it's creating waves in locker rooms as far as you're bringing in a freshman making more money than the starter and stuff like that. So I think that's gone away for the normal 3-star kid. Once you get into the 5-star kids, they're dealing with it. But even the 4 stars, our tackle's a 4-star guy. There's some NIL stuff being spoken about, but it didn't lead his recruitment, and it wasn't something that came up on a day-to-day basis. So I think it's really going a little bit on the other way with that. As far as college's impressions with us, college recruiting is really hard for us now because unfortunately at the P4 level, it's become position-based. So if you have a 4-star tackle, I met every single tackle.
He's a stud, by the way, coach, and a great kid.
Thank you. I met every single O-line coach in the FBS level over the last 9 months. But I have a D-end who's a scholarship kid. I have a DB who's a scholarship kid. I have a receiver who's a scholarship kid.
Everybody wants an offensive lineman, man. It's a huge market.
But it's hard to get those coaches to come in and see those guys because they're position-based recruiting now. So if you don't know coaches on staffs that can get kids on a map and get kids on a board, it's really difficult to get kids recruited at that level. The FCS level are our mom and pop, not mom and pop, that's the wrong word, but our bread and butter schools, they're always going to recruit us and they're always going to see our whole register on what we have. But to get those, powerhouse schools in here without having a kid that's already got accolades and early offers, it's a challenge. It definitely is a challenge nowadays. I think what we do get though is I think when they come and see our kids, their eyes open up and they're like, oh my goodness. You have a 300.
Look at it's not just one. They have multiple, and then look, this one's gonna be one, right? So. I mean, and look, it also is
just get them there. That's my goal in this live period. Get as many coaches on campus, and then they talk. Start talking.
Absolutely.
So for your for example, your tackle. So you'll have an offensive line coach come in. He's specifically coming in for that player, and 100%. Then. But obviously you have multiple guys. So in order to come back for your other players, you have to reach back out to that same school because the area guy isn't covering it the same way. Talk specifically to say the defensive line coach to get him back. Is that kind of how it works a little more now? Is that what's going on?
So right now, it's more important to be a savvy high school football coach than ever because you need to work around the system. Like if you go and tell the O-line coach you have a D-line guy, he doesn't probably even talk to the D-line coach or anyone on the defense that often.
They don't give a shit. They just got there 3 months ago, right? Like
he's worried about
his guys drinking beers together. They don't care.
He's about
they just want their guys to be good. Like,
he's about to get on a plane and fly across the country to go meet another tackle. Like he's not going to help you. You know what you got to do is you got to nag him and get the D-line coach's cell phone number. You got to nag him and say, do you have any D-line spots open left? You know, you need to do more legwork now to get that other kid an opportunity. So it takes way more work on the high school coach's side of this thing now. I mean, look at it this way. College coaches have access to every single college film in college football. They can recruit the portal very, very easy. To recruit high school football is very, very difficult. What is nature? What's a natural answer? They're going to recruit the portal. You know, so you got to work that much harder to get kids recruited now. It's a job. It's a hard job. You know, we had a kid that transferred in as a junior. His name's Gabe George. He just committed to Navy on Saturday. Kid's 6'5", 260 pounds. He played last year at 230. He's 260 now. He's got an 82-inch wingspan. The kid can dunk a basketball with two hands. He could throw a ball 50 yards. He could probably play tight end and run vertical routes for us. 5 years ago, that kid would have 30 Power 4 offers.
Easily.
Right now, we bobbed and weaved to get him offers because him coming as a junior was almost too late because of the way these windows close now. So it's hard. It's really, really hard.
Football's become a little bit like and they don't give out as many scholarships, but like, you know, they used to say like with baseball players or they had to go to these things a year in advance ahead of time to get their offers by the time they're spring or junior year, because if it went to the summer, went to the summer before their senior year, it didn't matter if they developed because everybody's offers were already out. And football, it seems like, just because when I talk to a lot of different, like if you get to the summer and you're going to be, if you're a 2025, if you're in the summer and you're hoping the camp is what gets you an offer, unless you somehow, you know, showed up at 6'6", right? And even there, they, you know, depending on the position, they may already have a 6'6" guy that has the offer, right? Or is taking it. And I think that's a thing that a lot of parents don't. You uniquely understand. I mean, we haven't talked to a lot of high school coaches, and a lot of college coaches too, that you uniquely understand the landscape. A lot of guys bury their head in the sand on the landscape. Like they just say, you know, like I really don't understand. I'm just going to do it. But I really like how you have like you understand the strategy of it
100%.
And you're able to tell your parents, hey, the portal is affecting how many offers you may have, right? That if you were, like you said, this kid was a 30 offer kid 10 years ago, and now he has a handful or a few. A kid who maybe would have had a few is now an FCS kid, right? And talk about how you have to educate your parents directly on this. Now, you can educate the kids. I actually think the kids are maybe more understanding than the parents on this because they have high expectations. They all watch TV. They all see these guys, you know, getting offers on Twitter, but they don't realize it's the same kids getting offers over and over again. It just keeps getting – it's on everybody's feed. It's on your feed because the way the algorithm works. But talk about how you have to educate the parents, what that process is like.
Yeah, we do a recruiting seminar every January. Like once I recharge my battery after the season's over, I get all my parents and all my players in a room in the cafeteria, and we do a big seminar. We tell them, you know, what they should be doing, how they should be marketing themselves, give them timelines on things. The timeline's huge. Dave, you hit the nail on the head. The timeline now, the summer camps are for juniors and sophomores now. If you're if you're looking to get P4 offers, if you're looking for FCS offers, it's wheelhouse. Like if you're looking to be an Ivy League kid, a CAA kid, a Patriot League kid, the summer camps for rising seniors are great. You'll get the validation. You'll get in front of the position coach you need to get in front of. You're good. But if you want to get a P4 offer, you need to have, in my opinion, you need to have verified junior film that's check marked. If you have any question marks about your junior film, even if you have the measurables and you have a lot of things going in your favor, if you don't have D1 junior film, you're not getting D1 offers anymore. That's because why would you go down a road? Why would you go down a road where you're projecting a kid when you can just go in the portal and know what you're getting? So it's totally different as far as that stuff goes now. But here's reality, and parents don't always want to hear this, and I say it nicer than I'm about to say it right now. If you're not getting on the field and having legit film by junior year at Iona Prep, you're not a P4 kid, because those kids are not sitting on my bench. I promise you. You know,
Coach. Finally, somebody let it fly. Thank you.
So the kids that are really good role players on our team, that are high academic, great kids, they will get recruited off their senior film, and they will get recruited in the summer before their senior year. But guess what? They're not getting a P4 scholarship. They've been crossed off that list a very long time. Now, as far as getting on those boards go from a camp, like, you know, we just had a kid that's 6'5" that went to a bunch of these camps. The problem's this. They go and offer 10 guys at a position that they're taking 3. Then they have 5 other kids that they're about to offer, that they're waiting for guys to say no, and then they're going to offer those guys. You show up at a camp and you're not on either one of those lists. You're like 14th for 3 spots.
Yeah. Well, good luck, buddy. Like,
so you're just sending kids to places where it's not going to end nicely, and it's just you're wasting kids' time and money, and the risk reward of kids getting injured. It really doesn't make sense. My kids don't go to camp unless I talk to a position coach that I know is going to be there, that they're legitimately on their board. If they're not on the board, I'm not sending them there. You know, so, you know, it's just –
And Coach, like, that's the difference, though, right? Is like you will now go out of your way, or not go out of your way. Like, you'll do your job at a high level, like it's expected to be at a program like you, and you'll reach out and say, look, my kid's not – like, where is my kid on your board? Is he like, am I sending him to you for a legit reason, or am I sending him to you so you can get 120 in your pocket? Like, let's have this conversation. Let's be real. Oh, you know, Coach, well, you know, he's kind of like 8. We're only taking 4. All right. Thank you, Coach. I respect it, but my boy's not going to be there. He's got other things to do. That's what I think separates coaches nowadays, that extra bit of, hey, I'm going to make that phone call. So now we're not just like sending these kids places. And it's like, no, now you have mom and dad coming back going, Coach, why did we go to this camp? Like, this coach didn't even talk to the kid. He only got 5 reps. Like, they made him do this, and yet that's not what he does. That part of it, I think, is where you separate yourself, and other coaches can separate themselves now within this process.
We have a process too. We make the kids do it first. They ask the coach first. Like, Coach, where am I on your board? I'd love to come to your camp, but I want to know if I'm there. And if they sugarcoat them and give them a BS answer, then I'll get on the phone. But there's no need for me to do it first. You guys start the relationship. You guys communicate. And then if you need me to get involved, I'll get involved. I get involved every day. What I will tell you is this. The college coaches have been good. Like, they know what this has become, and they've given us good transparency. And if you navigate it right, you could send kids to the right places and get them the right exposure.
100%. You have to earn their trust and that respect from each of those coaches as well, right? Like, you know, like, it works both ways. It works both ways. Absolutely.
I love the point you brought up there. It kind of brings a couple of questions I have to mind. So, number one, the first one is, when do you tell your kids that it's time to commit? Because I think that's a very, very difficult thing for kids. You talked about your player that just committed to Navy, and that has to be very difficult in the sense that, obviously, let's say you have a couple of Division I offers, or let's say you have a few FCS offers, and you're holding out, you know, for one of these Group of 5 offers, or and you don't know what's going to come in. When do you advise? Say, hey, listen. You have several offers. It's time to make a decision. Obviously, everybody knows, look, if something down the line, 6 months, Alabama walks down in front of the door and says, we want you, that could change things, right? But at this point, you've got to make a decision with the best information you have. How do you advise them when to do that kind of a thing? Hello?
Uh-oh.
Do we have a frozen? Am I frozen?
Coach?
Is Coach?
We talked him off, so that he said so much great shit that they took him off.
right? The powers that be said, okay, enough. He's got
They're
too
like,
many.
he's telling the truth. He's giving away too many secrets. Like, we can't have him on.
And
We got
the StreamYard must the StreamYard must end. It's like when I have conversations with Lenny, and we're talking too much about Jesus. All of a sudden, the phone breaks up and we get cut off. They can't. We're talking about Jesus. No,
You're like, they're listening. They're
we must
listening.
end their conversation immediately.
They're listening.
They're
Bad
listening.
juju. It's bad juju. Bad juju. I will say one thing though, like, and we'll figure out kind of what's going on. Like that explanation of and knowing the ins and the outs of this new world that we're talking about, like, absolutely amazing. Let's see. Oh, here he is. We'll remove him from this one and we'll add him back in here.
Oh, you're back. Good.
Coach, you're good. You're good.
Well, we said we said that you're giving away so much great information that the powers that be said no more great information from Coach. We must cut it off. They cut you right off. I said to Derek, I have a friend that we talk a lot about Jesus with, and every time we get too far down the line talking about Jesus, all of a sudden our phone gets cut off, and all of a sudden I said, "Oh, the powers that be won't let us talk about Jesus anymore." But what was I going to say? So what I was asking was, about committing, and when do you have them make that decision?
Yeah. So the landscape's changed. Another great question. It used to be the 4th of July. I used to tell our kids before the 4th of July, if you have full scholarships, you have to commit to one. Because before the college coaches go away, because they always go away 4th of July, let them know on their boards that they got you locked in and you're done.
Yep, I'm in.
Unfortunately, the FCS guys have gotten smarter. They are not offering early now. They're big into their July camps. You go look at Stony Brook. Stony Brook didn't even have a June camp. They're only having July camps, right? A lot of these FCS schools.
Fordham is still running another 5 or 6, right? Like,
a
it's
lot
just
of these FCS schools are waiting now.
it.
They're going the other way now. They're waiting because there's so many good kids that were P4 level kids that are dropping to them that they want to take a step, let the boards play out, and then say, all right, look at all these kids that are still out there. So where I used to like the 4th of July, I have 2 FCS level kids that are not going to commit by the 4th of July because there's 2 or 3 camps in mid-July they have to go to before they make the decision. What I tell our kids is this. When you commit to a level, you cannot decommit and stay on that level. You have to go up. So if you're going to commit, make sure it's the school at that level you want. And if there's another school, talk to that school and ask them, tell them you're about to commit and then move on. Our quarterback a couple years ago, Johnny Shepard, was committed to Old Dominion, and Ricky Ronnie's an unbelievable coach and a great guy. And I would love to see a Johnny play for him. But when he got the opportunity to go to Rutgers, coach didn't, blink an eye. He shook his hand, said, good luck. It was, I think, the 3rd time in 3 years he lost a quarterback to a P4 school late. And, that's acceptable in 2024. That's the nature of the beast. But you can't flip from Stony Brook to Albany. Like, that's going to get us. You can't do things like that. So our guys know that and they handle it well. Dave, it is getting tricky though with the FCS level kids. If you have G5 or if you have P4 offers at this point, you're committed. Like our two guys in this class are done. Rowan's going to Clemson, Gabe's going to Navy. And we have a DB, a wide receiver, probably a tight end, and probably another tackle that are going to be scholarship kids. It's just a matter of what's
the process. You got to understand it's those schools, somebody fitting in. Maybe it's a positional thing, right? The timeline now is crazy, right? For college coaches too. It's pure freaking insanity. You're getting ready for a bowl game, but the portal's open, and I assist even now with official visits happening in summer. Like, you got a camp going on, but you got official visits going on. You got these guys on campus, right? Like. And you just see how it works. And for your guys, Rowan, great kid. Talked to him a couple of times, right? Just absolute all around. Understood the whole process. Watched him go from, those first couple offers to see like where he's ended up in his process. Now look, I'm committed to Clemson. I can go now, work out, play my senior year without having that weight on my shoulders, and maybe help some of the other guys on my roster kind of navigate this world in terms of like, hey man, like that happened to me, do this, right? I think that too is really kind of going to aid like your program itself, because you have those guys that have gone through it who can now go talk to their teammates and explain it. Because it's one thing when it comes from us as coaches or from somebody else, but when it comes from the guy that's, sticking his hand in the dirt with you, like now it's a different type of conversation. And I think that only happens, obviously, if you develop the talent and then you also develop the player that you have on your team who's now willing to talk and have those conversations with his teammates, which now I think we've seen, the whole team thing is a little different than what we thought of, like, oh, this is my teammate, right? Now these guys are kind of a little different in that terms. So to have that collectively together, I think that's just, it's just the nature of the beast that what we're dealing with now, right?
Without a doubt. I mean, I invite all our alumni back during the live period workouts in May because, one, if they're going to go in the portal, they can go meet coaches that are recruiting our high school kids. So it's a networking opportunity for them.
Yep.
But
two,
it gets all my alumni that are playing college football around my current kids at a time when they need advice the most. So it's just a great networking opportunity to get everybody together. So that's the best tool we have is each other.
Mega camps. I'm curious. We had on, who did we have? Coach Carl Reed, who you probably know.
247
Sports, and he was a big fan of mega camps, and he kind of put a different perspective on it for me. I have never been a huge person on mega camps in the sense that I feel like, yes, there are college coaches there. They were looking for a specific thing. If they don't see it, what's the point? Like, other than the hosts, most kids are going there for the host school, not for the other ones. Carl Reed's stance on it was that you come out of there and you are what level you are out of it. And I disagree with that to an extent. I think that it depends on who attends the mega camp, and you don't know that as a prospect. And I go off of a lot of parents' feedback, as you probably do too, just because you have, a lot of players that have gone places. And I found them to be hit or miss. And I really feel like I felt like a lot of cases, because most kids are not Power 5 kids, even if they're scholarship kids, FCS or Group of 5, but most kids are Power 5 is now a certain level, right? That they go to the mega camps with these things, and then they end up not going to other camps that they should go to because they come out of it disappointed, okay? And people could say, oh, they want to be a college player, they shouldn't be disappointed. I look at it like they're kids, right? I would like them to think the way that I would think about it, but the reality is they're not. And they come out of a mega camp and didn't get the experience, and now maybe they should have gone to a Fordham camp or a Stony Brook camp or a Rutgers camp or a UConn camp, whatever, and just gone to that prospect camp. Maybe they don't go there instead. And what do you think of I'm curious what your thought process as a head coach of a really, really good program that has a lot of players, the pros and the cons of these kind of mega camps.
First off, our kids are spoiled as far as our exposure in the spring. There's a coach by the name of Tim Salem. He was at Pitt for a long time. He's now at Georgia Tech. He's a great guy. He turned me on to what Ohio does, in the Cincinnati area. What they do during the live period, they stagger workouts at different locations. So college coaches can come in the day and see 4 or 5 schools in a row go. Us and Stepanak kind of back-to-back did every Wednesday during the live period. And then I organized the third leg with Coach Hooley of Avon Old Farms and a bunch of the Mass and Connecticut preps.
We put
together a 3-day. Yeah, we put together a 3-day. We were the third leg in it where you could hit all the Jersey Catholics for the most part and all the New York Catholics in 7-8 hours. We had 87 college coaches at that thing. So you can go to a mega camp and you could be there with 2,000 kids, or you could be there with our 60 kids and have 87 coaches watching you. So, I tell our parents off the bat, we're going to get you more exposure than any camp you could pay for. Now, here's where the mega camps are good, right? You do our exposure days, right? the D-line coach at Bucknell's there, but the O-line coach needs a stamp on you, right? The wide receiver coach is there, and you need the DB's coach stamp on you. Well, those guys are at those mega camps. So what our kids do when they decide they want to go to a mega camp, they go and look at what schools have spoken to them during our live period, and then they go and talk to those schools. Hey, is your D-line coach going to be there? No. Right. Oh, yeah, he is. Okay. All right. Now I got 6 D-line coaches at this mega camp that I know are trying to get a live look at me. I'm going there. If not, you are just wasting money. Unless you're 6'6", or unless you're going to run a scorching 40. Or unless
you're dropping a 4.4 here, right? Like, your measurables, maybe.
Yeah. Or you could throw a ball through a house, right? Like, so one of those 3 things. If you're not doing one of those 3 things, and you're going to a camp just to get exposure, you're playing checkers, So our kids use those mega camps opportunities to hit multiple birds with one stone. You go to a place like Rutgers, you could hit probably like 7 FCS schools that are probably recruiting one of our FCS level kids. And they're not going there for Rutgers. We love Rutgers. We want to send more kids to Rutgers. But it's a kid that's not at the Rutgers level. He's going there for 5 or 6 other opportunities that those position coaches couldn't see him during the live period. So I agree with you, Dave. Like, if you're just mom and dad, I'm going to send Johnny to, X school this week.
Oh, look at all these schools that are going to be here. This is great. Yeah, look at that. This is great.
The Bone Camp was great for our guys. The Bone Camp this year was great for our guys. We probably got like 10, 12 offers out of the Bone Camp because
that's the best in New England camp.
Yeah. So we had probably
I've heard like that's slowly, steadily been starting to gain some traction.
It sells out.
Where it's there. You know what I mean?
Where did they host that one? That I heard about. I see a bunch of. Where was it?
Springfield College.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, yeah, nice.
I heard a lot of good things about it. I saw a lot of posts about it, and I heard a lot of good things about it. A guy I played ball with in college, his son's a quarterback in Connecticut, and I think he went to it and he thought it was great. So, but yeah, that's a great. I was curious to hear you take because it is like, it is difficult for people to navigate, and I love how you have it really structured in your mind, how you approach it with your kids, and it's organized so well. Like I really understand how you're thinking about the recruiting process. And the bottom line is that the kids you got to go to places where that you're already kind of getting looked at through what you guys are doing, right? That's the first step. The first step is with you guys, and you're getting to a certain point with you guys. And now you got to, when you go to camps or you go to visit, you're building off the fact that with the stuff that you guys are doing, the way that you're getting them exposure, now they can leverage that to when they go to these other places. They already know a coach that's seen them. They already know a coach that has good knowledge about them to begin with. I think it's especially for a head coach, because you can only control what you can control, right? So that gives you the opportunity to set your guys on the right path, which I think is really, really good. And by the way, Coach, don't get dismayed by my background, which looks like I'm in a lovely, lovely house. I'm actually sitting in a car. So the modern technology, I've been able to make it look like I'm sitting right in my home. Meanwhile, I'm in my car. And that's why Derek is taking over today, because I had to get my knee is slowly but surely falling apart, and I had to go see the doctor, get that thing boosted a little bit there. But it's really interesting the way that you approach things. I want to talk briefly about football. I'd love to have a whole nother conversation with you, literally about down the line about X's and O's. What about what you guys do offensively and defensively is so exciting to the kids that play with you?
Yeah, I mean, offensively, that's my baby. We're a spread up tempo. We're not up tempo, and we can get up tempo. We're no huddle spread offense, RPO based, quarterback centric system. I was a quarterback growing up, so I mean, as far as where my skill set is and where I can impact the game the most, it's definitely through the quarterback's eyes. I think I've had 8 Division I quarterbacks in the last 13 years. So, to me in the spread,
another one who's a celebrity too now. So like, shit, Coach, you really hit on the double whammy for this hammer. My man is.
I want some concert tickets.
Coach, you got to write a book right? Because just based off of like everything that you've been like talking about, and I'm not trying to interrupt you or whatever, but just like the part that you've adapted to this entire new world.
Amazing.
And and at the same time, you're dealing with all of this and you're still winning games at a high level on a national level. Like, to me, that's just absolutely phenomenal, and I love it. But it's crazy because, like you said, this is the world we're living in. And I also think there's a little something with the head coach having been a quarterback, because we know everything in football, it's a quarterback based game now, right? And that's kind of where it goes. So you just said, you've had 8 Division I quarterbacks, about to have another one. Like, is that where it all goes through? Is that where it starts? It's offensive because you're the offensive guy. Got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, it starts with the quarterback. You could identify a quarterback at a young age that he's got the goods or he doesn't. Then you need the size, right? You need the big boys up front to be able to play other big physical teams. And then the skill guys, kind of, you figure it out and you hope you have enough. With our RPO-based offense, we can get away sometimes with wide receivers that don't get a ton of separation because we're getting one-on-one matchups because of the RPO. So if the quarterback can throw it, we can make up for some of that. We typically put our more athletic kids in the secondary because you can't hide kids on defense. They got to be able to tackle. They got to be able to cover. So, you got to be good in the secondary. You got to be good in the trenches. Quarterback can clean up a lot of things up, as far as what you do. And that's how we try to build it every year. But as well as I do, you can't invent kids. And, you get who walks in and you hope you attract enough good, talented kids. And then you kind of build it around what you got.
With your RPO system, and you don't have to go, you only go as in depth as you want. I don't want to, give away any of your secrets or anything. But I'm curious, what area do you like to have them? Like, there are guys that like when they do RPOs, they like to pick on the outside linebacker. They like they pick on the safety. Back when I was at Palisades Park, we actually used to pick on the corner. I heard some guys are doing that now. We did it really as like a home run hitter to pick on the corner. We would run the bubble screen with a vertical and run zone read and pull it. And if you had it, you take your shot. But where do you like to struck? Like, what are you looking to go after from an RPO system standpoint?
Yeah, we build our menu to be able to read every player on the field. So we will RPO any player on the field, literally all 11. And then it's awesome. A week-to-week matchup thing. It's a week-to-week matchup thing. It's a what they're doing defensively thing. So it's the dudes that you're playing against, and then it's the scheme that you want to attack certain spots as well. So yeah, but you got to build it that way. You can't just week 4 say we're going to go attack the corner. You have to practice that in the spring.
Process of learning. You have to instill that.
It's got to be part of what you are and what your culture is. You can't just say, I'm going to minor in doing this or something like that. So it's what we do. It's what we are.
Very, very, very cool stuff. I mean, it's
awesome.
That's interesting. Honestly, like I haven't heard a lot of guys say what you say, that they'll RPO any guy on the field. I mean, that's the philosophy of your system, which I think makes it unique. In that, like, guys will use, and you probably know this because you've been to probably a million clinics. Guys will use RPOs in spots. You know what I mean? Like, they'll use it in spots only for this, right? The actually making the RPO as your system, I think makes you unique over a lot of other teams, because people mostly, from what I've seen, use a lot of RPOs in spots in certain areas, in certain situations, on certain individuals only. And I think that's really interesting. So your quarterback, and obviously you had a lot of guys go on to big time things. What is the kind of makeup of that individual? I get athletically what you want. You know what I mean? Like, you want to have a guy who can run, throw, but what kind of mentality does your quarterback have to have?
He's an alpha. He's a guy that wants the ball in his hand every play. He's not a guy that's just going to hand the ball off and not think. He has to think on every play. The biggest adjustment of playing quarterback in our system is the mental fatigue, because you don't get those plays off where you're just handing the ball off, where in youth you probably just ran ISO 20 times in a row or power, and the quarterback doesn't have to think for extended periods of time. In our system, he's got to think every play. So if he makes a mistake, the next play he's got to come back and get right back and focus and lock back in. And that's something you have to build up in a young quarterback, just like you have to build his own strength, his legs up. So that's the biggest learning curve, I think, for me, is just getting those guys every play to be able to refocus and make the next read right, even if the last read wasn't.
And do you try to have a quarterback in every class? How do you try to do it so you always have that stable of quarterbacks? So if one guy
Always.
leaves or one guy goes down, the next guy can
Right, you
run the
never
system
know.
Yeah, it never works that way because quarterback dads do not want to be 1 year behind a Division I quarterback. So you can bring a kid in every class, and we have a quarterback walking in the door every year. We need a freshman quarterback, right, for our freshman football team. Is he going to be the next guy or not? That's always the question, and that a lot of times that comes up to how hard the kid works and what his skill set is. But yeah, we'll have 3-4 quarterbacks every year that start the year, and then some guys transfer, some things happen. Their window doesn't open the way that their father anticipated it would, and you get some turnover because of that, unfortunately. But I like to think the time they spend with us, they learn how to play the game at a pretty decent level, and they're going to use those skills somewhere else if they leave us.
Right. And that's another thing, too. I think that's amazing, Coach, that you're even just talking about it in that facet. Like, it's obviously a thing, right? Like a quarterback each class, nobody wants to sit anymore, right? Nobody's willing to be that backup and play that role and do all that kind of this stuff. But the fact that you still respect it and you're still coach everybody up and look, man, you're leaving. Okay. It is what it is. It's type of that situation, but use what we've taught you to go be better or go be great wherever you're going, dude. You know what I'm saying? Because at some point you still have this Iona Prep stamp on you, right? Whether you stay, whether you go, like make sure you still conduct yourself the right way. And I think that's something that, like I said, a lot of guys don't want to sit behind that guy. And maybe it's not the right situation, right? Maybe they can go back to their public and light it up and go get that offer that they're looking for or whatever. But I just think to prepare for that next level and life in general, if you have to sit for a year and be that guy, or I just think it creates a better man, a better human, and that's part of the process. But at the same time, you understand, ain't nobody want to sit, right? Like I don't want to do this. I don't want to sit here. I can go play quarterback now and kind of go. So it's definitely a difficult process. There's only one quarterback, right? And Dave, what do you say all the time? There's only one ball.
Only one ball. And everybody wants that ball. Including your offensive linemen. They want it just as much. Over the years they just had it beaten out of them, so they just got to stay in the line. But they want that ball too. And if you gave me the opportunity, Coach, it's been fabulous having you on. I learned a ton. Like,
thank you.
To me, your perspective on coaching
Amazing.
Is really, really not just the right perspective, I mean, the way I see it, but also allows you to really adapt to your players. I mean, I think that's the number one thing, going forward, right? You have your system of what you expect of your guys, but you also understand that they're individuals. For years, I always said this to Derek, like, football is a team sport. Everybody has to be for the team, but there's still individuals on that team that you still have to treat like people, right? And that's the key. And I think the coaches that understand that really go to a whole different level to understand that, yes, we want to do everything for the team. Everybody should be a team guy for the team to do the best they can for the team. At the same time that we're trying to get you better individually to help you hopefully get to where you want to get to or be the very best that you can be. You know what I mean? And that's the goal. And you walk away from your experience here that you've been able to get the most out of yourself. And usually what happens is if they get the most out of themselves, usually the team's probably going to be in good shape, right? Because those are the kids that you want in your program that have that desire to be really good. I can't thank you enough for coming. Sorry about the technical difficulties. It's definitely my fault because I had to go to the doctor this morning and get my knee taken care of. But Derek did a great job handling. We had to switch roles a little bit, and it worked out really good. If you ever want to come on and talk, just I say after the season, right? Clinic time. We'll have you on, talk some X's and O's and stuff that you guys are doing. We'd love to have you on, and best of luck in the upcoming season. Enjoy the rest of your summer.
Yes, Coach, really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time, really. And look, our viewership got looking good right now, Dave. We've had a bunch of people, but I think it's because, we touch on topics that, matter to the guys that are our audience, right? And Coach, I think you gave a phenomenal perspective on everything. I think in my eyes, if somebody asked me what does a head coach need to be doing and how do they be successful in 2024 right now. Coach, I think you just literally hit everything, every point of, everything that's going on with NIL transfers, all that kind of stuff, getting recruited up, building a program, doing all that kind of stuff at a high level. I really appreciate you coming on because we know you got a lot going on. So good luck during the season. I know you got a nice little national schedule. Don't beat up on the Jersey guys too much because, it is what it is. Yeah, no, you're good, Coach. You'll be all right, but I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time, man.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it as well. Please email me the live stream that, if you guys recorded, I'd love to put it out there on our social medias and promote you guys. I've watched a bunch of your guys' podcasts. You guys do a great job, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Coach. Talk soon.
Take care. Bye.
All right. Oh, good. All right, Derek, you know how to do it. Good. That was fantastic.
Modern era. New school.
It's how I think about coaching in a lot of
with the old school, right? Like new school, like, hey man, like also like has seen it change and has adapted and gone with it. Whereas some of these guys are still, hey, we're doing it like this. Like, I mean, come on, man. You're talking about making things easier for your own kids within your program, but still having that structure, right? And then kind of rolling with it. I just thought that was awesome.
Absolutely awesome. I was glad we were able to get him on, and then tomorrow we should have on the Harvard head coach, which will be a great segue. So we have high school and college,
right.
and we'll talk a lot more there with the head coach from Harvard, which will be really, really interesting. He came, he's at Rutgers before, and
new spot, highest Ivy League. I mean, look, yeah, they probably highest academic standards, right? Like, well, let's see how that works.
In the United States, the most maybe recognized college in the United States.
Probably.
I would say yes. I would say Harvard is the most you could argue from year to year between Harvard, Yale, and Princeton, who is ranked higher, quote unquote. But as far as the most recognized of all time, obviously Harvard, as far as especially obviously from an academic standpoint. So,
absolutely.
And it must have been the first university in the United States. I'm thinking. I got to look that up.
It's got to be like that or Princeton or somewhere along those lines, right?
Number 2 is William and Mary. They were the second college in the United States. The only reason I know is because I've been down to Williamsburg and I always say it. But
right.
I'm guessing Harvard is number 1. But I'm curious. Before we go, and I think you have to say it like this: Harvard.
Harvard.
But anyway, great podcast. We'll get that stuff to Coach, and then you have the ability to end it whenever you're ready.
Harvard founded in 1636.
Okay, is it number 1? Is it first?
Was the first institution of higher education in the English colonies. 100%. First college.
So there it is.
All right.
Number.
What are they? The Harvard what?
Harvard Crimson. I think Crimson. Harvard.
I'll have to do some research on that.
I think I'm right. Harvard Crimson. I think, but I could
right.
be.
I'll go with it. Ryan Fitzpatrick. Here we go, baby.
That's right. Fitzmagic went there. That's right. Who else? Oh, the fullback from the 49ers went there.
Whatever his name is. His wife makes amazing clothes. Starts with a J.
Yes.
And on that note, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
You got it.